Welcome to a video about apportionment. It's our second method called the Jefferson method. You might have heard of this guy before, last name Jefferson. Yep, that's the one, first name Thomas. Thomas Jefferson proposed a different method than Alexander Hamilton. What you're going to notice in the steps below, though, is that a lot of them feel the same. In fact, they are exactly the same. Step one, we're still going to find the divisor the way we did before. We're going to take the total population of the country and divide it by the total number of representatives. Okay, we're going to call that our divisor. Same thing. Step two, exactly the same. Find each state's quota. You're going to take each individual state's population and divide it by the divisor, that number that you found in step one. Okay, step three, also identical. You're going to write down the lower quotas, the initial apportionment, and all you're going to do is just cut off the decimals, right? You're just going to write down the whole numbers. Just cut off the decimals, and whatever you have as the whole numbers is the number of seats that each state will get. Now, what will often happen when you cut off the decimals is that you'll have some states that will actually be picking up a seat later because the total number of seats is not equal to the total available. So we're going to determine at this point how many more we need to give out. And then in step four, this is where it gets new. This is not the same as the Hamilton method, all right? So if extra seats exist, rather than looking at the decimal as Alexander Hamilton had us do, Jefferson uses a method where we reduce the divisor. Now, this seems a little odd at first, but what happens when you reduce the divisor is that you're dividing by something smaller. So it actually turns each state's quota larger. I know that's a little weird. When you divide by a smaller number, it gets larger. And when that happens, it means that each quota will go up slightly, and you'll recalculate each state's quota and allocation, and you're going to keep doing that. You're kind of basically going to go back to steps 2 and 3 right there is what you'll do. You're going to do that until step 3 is equal to the total number of representatives. So what you're doing is if you need more seats, you reduce the divisor the right amount until you have the right amount of seats. Now, that's a little tricky because the big question becomes, how do I know how much to reduce? And you're going to see that play out in my very first example. Let's take a look at it, and I'm going to show you some techniques for guessing as well, right? So here's our first example. We did this one already with the Alexander Hamilton method, but the setup is the Bandana Republic is a small country with 4 states, Apure, Barinas, Carabobo, and Dolores. There's 160 seats in their Congress we're going to give out, and we're going to now use the Jefferson method. Okay, again, the first 3 steps are the same. Add up the total population first, and that would be 8 million if you add up the 4 states. And you're going to find the divisor the way we did before, right? That's going to be just taking the total population of the country and dividing by the number of seats. In this case, it's just going to be the 8 million. I'm going to use my calculator right here. I'm going to divide that by 160 seats, and I figure out my divisor is 50,000. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go through all the steps, though, even though you're going to see later on I have to redo all of it. So now I figure out the quota, and that's done by taking the individual state population. I'm going to take Apure's population and divide by the divisor. So 3,310,000 divided by 50,000, that will be 66.2. And that means that I just have 66 seats there. Remember, cut off the decimal. Arenas, 2,670,000 divided by the divisor of 50,000. Is 53.4. Again, cut off the decimal, that's 53. And then the next is 26.6. That's 26 seats. And then the smallest state, having under 1 million people, will have a quota of 13.8, and that's 13. Well, what you're going to want to do is figure out what the total is here, because you want to figure out how many seats. You're going to figure out, see that this is very important when guessing in just a little bit. So I'm going to add up these 4 numbers, and what I find is I have 158. Now, I remember that my Congress has 160 seats, so I need 2 more seats, all right? Now, the Jefferson method in step 4 was to create a modified divisor, and we're going to do that by reducing the divisor. But the question is, and this is a really big question, how much? How much? I was originally at 50,000. I'm going to bring that number down. Well, how much down? Do I go down to 40,000? Do I go down to 5,000? Do I just go down to 49,000? And the answer is kind of tricky. You don't know. Generally, you don't really go that much down, but it does depend. So you're going to have to move around. Now, we just need 2 more seats, all right? So maybe I don't need to reduce that much. I'm going to try guessing 49,000 here. By the way, if you reduced a whole bunch, what would happen is you would give a lot of extra seats. And then I'm going to redo the quota and the initial apportionment to see how this changes my numbers. Okay, so we're basically going to take this number 49,000 instead of the 50,000 and redo all that. So again, starting with a puree, the 3,310,000 divided by now 49,000 changes the quota slightly. It's now 67.55. You really don't need a bunch of decimal places here because what we're actually doing is taking the whole number. Now, what you can notice is that now we're at 67, but before we were at 66. You're like, oh, wow, I picked up a seat. Exactly. We're trying to give out 2 more. Remember, we need 2 additional seats. Let's go to the next state, Marinas, 2,670 divided by the 49,000. I'm getting 54.4897 and so on. Okay, I'm just going to stop there because again, the whole number is 54. And once again, we were before at oops, I didn't mean to use my ink pen, I meant to use my marker. We're at 54, but we were before at 53. That means we've already got 2 more seats. So when I do the next 2 states, I better not get any more seats or we're going to have a problem. And we will. I purposefully have chosen incorrectly. I did this problem before the video started. But let's go to the next one, Carabobo. Let's divide that, and we get 27. Oops, I need to bring back my ink pen. 27.14. That gives me 27. And notice that that's also one bigger. And the last one, though, just to give you a sense of it, 49,000 we're dividing by is 14.08, which is 14. Now, if you compare all 4, this one gained 1 more seat, and this one gained 1 more seat. And it shouldn't be any surprise, though, then that when we add these up, we actually get 162. Now we have another problem, right? Instead of needing 2 more seats, we have 2 too many. What does that mean? Well, it means you reduced too much. You shouldn't have gone all the way down to 49,000. Maybe 49,500, maybe 49,200, maybe. And the issue is, of course, that you have to guess repeatedly until you get it right. So let me show you how technology can play a role and help. And I can send you this spreadsheet, or you can recreate it yourself if you're comfortable. I'm going to use Excel. However, you can do the same thing using the Google Sheets, which is free. So in this spreadsheet that you're seeing here, I've already put in the information. Okay, so what I'm going to do differently is when I go to the cells, I'm going to be typing some formulas, and I'll go over this briefly, all right? Again, you can use the sum key at the top. I'm going to add those up. That's 8 million. Remember my initial divisor. I'm going to click in that box. And the way you type a formula in either Excel or in Google Sheets is you use the equal sign. So I'm going to type equals, and then I'm going to click on the box that I want. The box is I want the 8 million, the population, right? And I'm going to divide that by 160 because there was 160 seats. That's my 50,000. Then you can set up some formulas in these boxes for the quota, right? For the quota, rather than typing it in manually, just hit equals, and then you hit the cell to the left because I want the state population. And then I want to divide by the divisor. I'm going to go click on the divisor box. So it's showing me which boxes I'm dividing. I just hit enter, and notice it does it for me here, right? And I can do the same thing in every cell. I can hit equals, the previous cell, divided by divisor. There are some shortcuts, which I don't want to teach too many, like dragging the bottom right corner. And you can, well, that didn't work. You have to modify you have to put some special symbols in here. If you put dollar signs, then it won't drag that down. But I don't want to teach too many tricks here. So there are shortcuts if you get faster at it. All right, so then our initial apportionment is just the decimals cut off. There's also a Excel function for this. However, I'm just going to type them in manually right now. I don't want to teach too much at once. So 66, 53, 26, and 13. If you hit the sum button, it'll add those up and you see it's 158. We already knew that from before. But now I want to do a modified divisor. We tried 49,000. I'm going to go ahead and type that in again so you can see how fast you can modify this with Excel. So all you do to change what you're doing is you go back over here to the quotas, and instead of B2 divided by B9, you want to change that to B2 divided by my modified divisor, F9, all right? And you would change each one of these to F9 if you'd like. I know I had another thing in there, but let's just call them all F9. Again, I don't want to show too many shortcuts here. All right, now I have all of these. And then the initial apportionment now, cutting off the decimals, 54. and 27 and 14, you can see there's that 162. It's too much. Well, now that you have the formulas in there, you can just change this number slightly. Like try changing it to 49,500. Well, what you're going to see is this doesn't work either, because this makes it 66, 53, 26, and 13. Oh, we're still going back to 158, so I went too far. Well, maybe I need to go to 49,200, which made that number up, all right? Well, that would be 67, 54, 47, and 14. Oh, that's 162, still too much. Maybe it's 49,350. I'm just making up a number, so trying to figure something in between. So 67, 54, 26, and 13. Bingo, I got it. What you have what? I have the 160, right? So these numbers here are actually my final apportionment, because that will add up to the 160 that I want. My final apportionment is 67 for Pyrrhate, 54 for Barinas, 26 for Carabobo, and 13 for Dolores. You can see that the use of technology helped me expedite the process. You could keep redoing it by hand if you would like. We're going to take a look at another example in my next video.